Just a few minutes into the speech, the president invoked Bollywood. He mentioned Bollywood classics DDLJ and Sholay. He also showed his regard for the world's greatest cricketers, Sachin Tendulkar and Virat Kohli.
This is the country that produces nearly 2,000 movies a year from the hub of genius and creativity known as Bollywood. All over the planet, people take great joy in scenes of Bhangra, music, dance, romance, and drama, and classic Indian films like DDLJ and Showjay.
Praising Prime Minister Modi for his hard work, Trump said, and I'm quoting, "Everybody loves him, but I will tell you this, he is very tough."
Power through coercion, intimidation, and aggression, and a nation that this is why.
And joining us on the broadcast this minute is a very special guest, Andrew Whitehead, joining us for further elaborating on various aspects of that visit already. It's been a spectacle, to say the least. The rousing reception that was received by the first couple upon their arrival in Ahmedabad, followed by the touring of the iconic Taj Mahal. But I want to take a cue from what we just mentioned. The president talked about Prime Minister Modi as a tough negotiator. That's a phrase we have heard before from none other than the president himself for his own negotiation skills. A very interesting remark that came in that, of course, is an indicator of the deliberations that will follow tomorrow.
Yes, and of course President Trump meant that as a tribute to Narendra Modi. As you say, President Trump sees himself as a tough negotiator, and he prides himself on getting really good for America trade deals. He revamped the North America Free Trade Association, NAFTA, and got a much better trade deal for the states from Canada and Mexico. He's played hardball and a bit of brinkmanship as well with China, where there was really the prospect of a very nasty trade war. But he's got the makings of a deal with China, which he seems to be satisfied with. And clearly there are some difficulties in the way of a wide-ranging trade deal. But what we couldn't avoid to take away speech is his real, and it's quite genuine, admiration of Narendra Modi himself. The language is a little bit overblown, as you might expect of a communicator who learnt the trade in reality TV. But nevertheless, when the trend, and you could see all the body music, and you could see from those words were to Narendra Modi himself, they really admire each other because they're quite similar.
Sorry to interrupt you, a bit of an audio glitch there in your line. While we reconnect you, let's also tell our viewers that the first family upon their arrival in India has already completed the first leg of that visit. It's a two-day visit that we are looking at. The first day has already nearly culminated with the first family touring the iconic Taj Mahal. Earlier in the day, Prime Minister Modi and President Trump addressed large audiences at the Motera Stadium in Ahmedabad. Those visuals coming to you on your screens from earlier in the afternoon. 110,000 people is the capacity of that stadium, the world's biggest cricket stadium. And the two leaders re-emphasized their commitment when it comes to deepening ties and further solidifying the friendship between the two nations. The personal chemistry, if we were to also talk about the same, Andrew Whitehead is back with us. The chemistry that was once again on full display between the two leaders, Andrew. We've seen them, of course, express a lot of admiration for each other earlier as well. And today, what we witnessed at Motera Stadium was, in a way, a continuation of that same chemistry.
Yes, and they're very different in so many ways, yet I think they really do understand each other. They're both political showmen, and I don't mean by that there's no substance. They're both very substantial political figures, but they're among the very few world leaders who both like and can do well the political rally in stadiums which attract tens of thousands and today 100,000 or more. And Trump is a great orator, as Narendra Modi is, and we could see that in the oratory that we heard at Motera today. And I think there is a bond because of that. And of course, they both have their own political agenda. Donald Trump is very keen to win over the 2 to 3 million Indian Americans who voted very largely for Hillary Clinton 4 years ago. His victory, remember, 4 years ago, was in spite of losing the popular vote. So Donald Trump needs every vote that he can get if he's going to be sure of re-election in November this year. And the Indian American community seems to be showing signs of moving over from the Democratic camp into the Republican camp, and this trip will certainly help that. And of course, for Narendra Modi himself to host the most powerful man in the world, it's quite a feather in his cap as well.
And the president has spoken about the prime minister's humble beginnings, his journey from being a tea seller to the prime minister of the country. He's talked about how India is an example to the world of how hard work and dedication will go a long way in achieving anything that's possible. Those kind of remarks were along expected lines. We've also seen the president once again reiterate how this is a multi-pronged approach that the two sides have been taking towards deepening ties on all of those levels. Andrew, what according to you was the aspect that really stood out when it comes to the optics? Because let's face it, the substance behind the optics is something that we've been talking about. As you just mentioned, it's election year, and for President Donald Trump, optics at this time matter all the more.
Yes, they do, and I think the Motera speech was very much about setting the mood rather than anything very much more than that. I think the real talking will happen in Delhi tomorrow.
Yes.
It'll happen behind closed doors. There'll be a statement, but I'm sure the statement won't necessarily reflect on all the aspects of that private discussion. But I was quite taken when President Trump said the United States when President Trump said the United States should be India's premier defence partner. And he also said that's the way it's working out. We knew that there were large defence deals which were going to be signed in Delhi tomorrow. President Trump said about $3 billion worth of sales of American military helicopters to India. But that ambition that America replaces Russia as India's main go-to place for defence equipment, that's quite something. And Narendra Modi, of course, didn't directly respond to that, but clearly that does seem to be where both countries are heading.
Absolutely. Stay with me, Andrew. If we were to also talk about the relationship between the two countries, India and the U.S. committed towards defending their people from radical Islamic terrorism. And that was one aspect that also stood out from President Trump's address earlier in the day at Motera Stadium. Donald Trump said that nothing that the USA has in fact, also talked about how the two countries have stood together in the fight against terrorism. Here's an excerpt from what he said earlier in the day.
The United States and India are also firmly united in our ironclad resolve to defend our citizens from the threat of radical Islamic terrorism. Both of our countries have been hurt by the pain and turmoil of terrorism and that terrorism brings.
Trump also said that his administration was working closely with Pakistan against terrorism. Trump indicated that Washington very much wants Pakistan to crack down on terrorist groups operating near and within its borders. Trump also noted India's role in promoting peace in the region. He reaffirmed that every nation has to secure its borders.
For this reason, since taking office, my administration is working in a very positive way with Pakistan to crack down on the terrorist organizations and militants that operate on the Pakistani border.